Good day, everyone. I'm very pleased to be here today, and I would like to thank you all to be here with me in this room, and for all of us to be connected with us for this hour, or maybe an hour and a half. We're here today, I'm here today, to talk about what a plant breeder has to know about seed production. Who in this room is interested in plant breeding? Who wants to become a breeder? One? Almost everyone. Does anybody in this room want to be a manager in seed production or something like that? No. One?
Could be, yeah.
2, 3? Okay. Okay. That's the challenge of my presentation, of my show. During this lecture, I would like you to understand what are the challenges of seed production and why it is important for you to know that, because you will be breeders and you will have to interact with seed production. And you'll see that seed production is key, as well as your job of plant breeder is key. First, let me introduce myself. My name is Axel Olivier. It's right on there. And I'm the director of... It doesn't work. Do you have something to move to next slide, because it doesn't work? I'm sorry. Didn't check that.
It's okay.
It's okay? Yeah. Okay. So I'm the director of ASFIS, but that doesn't mean anything for you. What's ASFIS? ASFIS is indeed... No. How did you do? How did you do? This. It's okay. Thank you. So ASFIS is the French expert company in dissemination of know-how for seed industry. That means that we're here for you, to train students, but most of all to train workers, because that's my job, to train adults, to train people in their job, and to give also consultancy, expertise, or sort of documentation that could be useful for production or even breeding. ASFIS is a division of the GNIS. GNIS, let's say that it's the union of all the professionals of seed industry in France. Okay, so we are a part of it, dedicated to training. Who am I? I'm the ASFIS director, but first of all, I'm a geneticist, sorry. I've been a plant breeder in wheat, but I didn't do it for years. It was just during my studies and the end of my studies. And then life gave me the opportunity to discover other job. And finally, I passed all my life in agronomy consultancy, technical things in agronomy or in production. So if I'm here today, it's because I know what you want, I know what will be your job, and I know what I didn't know about seed production, or what I didn't want to hear about seed production when I was a breeder. And I'm here to emphasize this point with you. I'm interested in people, so I'm interested in seeds, and I'm also interested in wines. It's a very interesting topic. Don't worry, we won't talk about that today, but it's something very important for me also. So as you should have other patience. We will be here for 1 hour. It's important for me that you could memorize or integrate the most important things. That means that you will have to be concentrated. You will have to pay attention to what we will say together. And I would like also you not to be only listeners, because that's not interesting for me. I would like you to be actors of this lecture. That means that I expect you to listen and respect each other, and to ask any questions when you have. I've been told that this thing could be useful for that, and that if you're connected by, I don't know what's the tool, but I know that somebody in this room, Alicia, may report the questions of people who are not in the room. So please use it. It's yours. Okay, my lecture will will consist of 5 points, easy ones. What's the seed sector? First one. The second point is the seeds. So we'll see what are the properties of a seed. It seems to be very easy, but my aim is for you to understand how it's critical for breeding and also for production. And then we'll go in details, or in some detail because time is short, on production for inbred lines. Then we'll apply it also to hybrid productions. And at the very end, last but not least, we'll see what are the main points that you have to keep in mind regarding to a good production system for seeds. Okay? And we'll see if we have time to conclude all together. That means that you will make the conclusion, or if I should do that because we're short of time. We'll see. Okay? So let's start by the beginning, the seed sector. Please, could you tell me what are the main stages, the main jobs, the main functions that you can guess in the seed sector? Breeder. What are? A breeder, sure. I'll try to do my best to write, but I'm sorry, my writing is not great. Okay? So let's say, yes, please?
Multiplication.
Multiplication. Marketing. Sales. Supply. You're very good. Storage. Yeah. Okay. What did you say? Sorry, I didn't hear.
Genetical materials.
Genetical materials. What does it mean? Germplasm.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good. Some are missing, but not that much.
Agronomist.
You say?
Agronomist.
Sorry?
Agronomist. Agronomist.
Agronomist. Okay, I get that. I take this one. Yes, it's alle.
Certification.
Certification. Okay. And it depends of the crops, but okay. Certification.
Biotechnological scientist.
Biotechs.
Yeah.
Let's put there.
Seed treatment.
Seed treatments. Let's put there.
Associated breeders.
Associated breeders. Okay.
Directly consumers.
You say?
Consumers.
Consumers. At the very end, they are consumers. Okay. Okay. Let's say that you did a very good. You did indeed a very good job. You have everything, and much more. Maybe quality could be missing, but it's not. You have everything. So in this chain that we'll see together, we come from the creativity, the breeder, to the end of production, the customer. Donc from creating to selling it, you started with the breeder, the people who are in the fields, creating, working on germplasm, working with some labs of pathology, of biotechs, and with all these jobs, they manage to create. You will manage to create new varieties that will go to agronomists or to market people who will challenge your variety to see if there is a market for them, if they will be able to access to a part of the market. And during this phase, you will also have people working on supply, working on seed production, in order to go into the market. So that's the next slide. Seed production, we'll see that together. So in fields and in factories, in warehouses. And at the very end, sales. When you have the supply, when you have a good vision of the market, you will be able to sell to sell it to the consumers who are farmers. Okay, it may be a simple question, but I would like you to make the job. Could you please tell me who is dealing with research, who is dealing with production, who is dealing with sales regarding the actors? You have different kind of actors: the breeders, the producers, and the distributors. Are you agree?
Yeah.
Do you agree? Yeah. So who does what?
Breeder research.
Okay, breeder research,
Producer as well.
production, and distributor sales.
Yeah.
You all agree with that? You will see during your lessons, I think, that things are a bit more complicated depending on the crops, depending on the countries, because some producers may, and so on. Okay, that means that even if you're right, the most important work of each actor are those ones. The question of any breeder is what will be made with my seeds? Who will produce it? Will we produce it ourselves, or will we make them produced by others? Okay? And who will make the sales? Will we do ourselves, or will we do it with others? And this question is really regarding with additional value. That means, depending on your crop, what can be the market? And can I give money to others to do things better than what I can do? Because it's not really my job to do production or to do sales. But anyway, in any case, this additional value that is to be good at producing seeds, to be good at selling seeds, are critical. And your job as a breeder will be to be able to keep very good additional value for each one of those steps. Okay? That means that in your selection, in your criteria of selection, profit margin will be key. And it's not your profit margin doing your job, but the profit margin that you will give to others in the chain. Okay? Let's focus on seed. Do you have some things to add to this first part?
Yes.
Yes, please.
I don't understand what production profit margin is.
That means that can others tell? Because I can answer, but I think you can. What can be profit margin for production?
For example, if you have a good crop, a good variety, but you don't get easy conditions to multiply because of the female or of the male, then it won't be interesting, economically speaking, to multiply and produce that seed.
So you just
Because you must get benefits of your seed. You get a good variety, the aim is to sell it and to win money, to earn money. But if in the multiplication part you get low yield because female goes 1 month before the male and it's really hard to adjust both of them, then you won't earn that much money, so it won't be interesting to produce that crop, that variety.
It's really a know-how. You tackled very interesting points of know-how for production, but there are several ways to lose money in production or to win money in production. And this step can be very interesting for money. Really, you can be very good at it. You can be specialized at it, and if you do, you can keep market and produce for others. And in any case, you will choose the variety that will yield the most for your production system of seeds. And the challenge of you breeders is to give me, producer, the seeds that will be easy to produce and that will yield well. Okay? And you'll see that it's such a challenge. It's a huge one. Thank you for your question. Second part, let's move on to the seeds. You all know what are seeds, but please could you just define me a seed? What are the words coming right now if I talk about seeds? What's a seed?
Ripened ovule.
Sorry, I didn't get that.
Seed is a ripened ovule.
Right.
Ovule.
Too technical. R-I-P-P-E.
Right point of.
A-N-E-P-D. Ripened.
Right. Sorry.
Means mature ovule.
Somebody in French?
Ovule.
Could you?
And
Une ovule. You're right. Sorry, my English is not that good. I'm very sorry. An ovule. Okay, that's what you say.
That is mature or ripened. That. Okay.
Okay, you're right. Fecunded and
Yeah,
and so on.
Yeah, I would change like maybe fecunded or instead of matured.
Okay,
Because
both.
ovule is.
Both are right. It's
Yeah, because
fecunded and
fecunded but not mature.
right. Thank you.
Generative production material.
You're very technical. Generative production. Okay, let's say material. Material for production. Okay. Okay, right. But I was more easy than that. When you were at school, okay, what's a seed?
The product that we are going to sell.
Good. He's still in the market, you know. But it's the produce to sell. It's what we call an input for agriculture. Okay. I take that one. But what are the properties of a seed?
Yeah, it's a plant.
I'm a plant. Okay. I'm producing seeds. What are they?
Potential plant. Potential plant.
Potential plant. Okay.
It's a resource reserve that the plant makes in order to subsist.
Something that will pass the winter or difficult moments. Okay.
Existing.
Existing. You mean?
Say, if you sorry.
You mean life?
Yeah.
Is it potential plant? It's life. Okay. Another idea? It's fecunded. So it's sexual reproduction. Okay. That's very important. A seed comes from a sexual reproduction. Okay.
Also like multiplication.
Yes, it's a way to multiplicate. So, okay, it's a way to multiplicate for the plant. Is it the only the plant makes it? Okay, it multiplicates and then it spreads.
Spreads.
Okay, it spreads. What's interesting for you in breeding? Those are things that characterize a seed. What's interesting for you for breeding? For breeding, it's yeah. You have money, okay, all right.
All of it.
Because we can breed.
All of them, okay.
Sexual reproduction.
Yeah. This thing is key for you. Okay. A seed is a genetic. It's something new you created from sexual reproduction. And this is key for you. The other parts, in my point of view, are more critical for production. See what I mean? It's a way to multiplicate. It's a way to earn money, to have a good margin profit. And we will have in production to focus on that. An input, okay, it's for everybody. A potential life. When you are regarding to production of seed, your main challenge is to preserve the quality, and the quality is most of all this potential of life, germination. Okay, and it's another thing that you breeders are not interested in, not really. Okay, it's something that you can stock. that you can keep for years. But sometimes it's not years. Sometimes you have to keep it for years because before it starts germinating. But sometimes you cannot keep it more than 1 year. It depends on the crop. Okay? It depends on the species. It depends on the way you treat it. And spreads. Spreads is very important for seed production, but it's something we don't want. It's something we have to control for production system. Okay? I just did that slide, to summarize what we said. So it's a genetic heritage, sexual reproduction. That's interesting for the market and for you breeders. Propagation, shelf life, dissemination, germination, and the input is most of all interesting for production. Another way to summarize it is to say that when you are when you're looking at a seed, you're seeing one genetic that you breeders are giving. That means something that's bred, something that's evaluated, something that's registered. Okay? And it's also one seed quality. And this seed quality is the challenge of production. That means to have a good quality control, to have a good packing, you offer something else than the seed itself, some seed technology. You may have a very good germination, something outstanding the market, and you can have a very good advice for your seeds that can differentiate you from others in the market. Okay? And that's production plus marketing. Okay? Both of them. All right. Let's end with this part, just with this question, because it will structure the what's following. What's an inbred line and what's an hybrid? You see, it seems to me that you're very technical, so it's an easy question for you. Okay. Okay, let's move on. If it's okay for you, let's drop those slides and save some time. So a pure line and inbred line is something that's homozygous, that's homogeneous, and that's stable. Okay? Those are the three characteristics of an inbred line. And hybrid, what is it?
The crossing of two inbred lines.
Very good.
Product of
Okay.
two crossing.
Okay, you know everything. What's very important for me, it's that it's the cross between two inbred lines. That cannot be anything else but inbred lines there. Okay? And if you do that, logically, you have something with a high heterozygosity, but you have something homogeneous, because each one of those lines will give every year the same material, the same genetic material. So it's okay, you will have something homogeneous. It's something that we want in the industry. It's something that the traditional market, the developed country market wants. Okay, so you all know that this kind of lines are very closely linked with the way that plants reproduces. Okay, on one side you have the self-pollinating species. On the other side you have the cross-pollinating species. Let's list some of them. And usually you produce inbred lines with something with self-pollination, pollination. You produce hybrids with cross-pollination systems. Sometimes it crosses. Okay? That's what we all know. Questions on that, or is it okay for everyone? Okay. So what I wanted to underline before continuing is that for a pure line, it's something characterized by stability. That means that it's quite easy to produce. It will be very easy to use one line and produce the next year another line with it. But the challenge, even if you have low constraints, will be to maintain, to control the costs. With inbred lines, the key is to control the cost, to save money as much as you can, to be good at saving money. The challenge is completely the opposite with hybrids. Because with hybrids, you have an hybrid that will produce something else than an hybrid next year. Okay? So you will have a lot of constraints in producing that. We'll see that together. And you will have to control, to have a very good control for the crossing. This is the challenge, that's what you said at the very beginning. Okay? So we'll see how we manage it. Let's go into really the main part of this lecture. So what's an inbred line production? How can you do to multiply one seed and produce 2,000 hectares with just one seed at the beginning? Okay? That's a challenge for production. So you tell me, how do we do?
Plant the seed.
You plant a seed. Okay. And you obtain several seeds?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's say 1,000 of them. No, 100 of them. Yes? And next year?
You can't tell those.
And maybe we
You can use vegetative propagation.
Please, one after the other. You said something?
but would you like it to be fast or just get to the pollinators? Because if we go with little amount, we can go in greenhouses or for the first years in order to really get the big amount, and then when the amount is big enough, we start in the fields and counter-season production.
Okay. So let's say that the challenge will be to have the fastest access to the market. Okay? Fast. So you can have over-season, counter-season production and so on. Or to use greenhouses or so on. Okay? So we have the first generation, okay? And then,
Replant it.
okay, you'll do once again. So, okay. 10,000, sorry. And next year? Why, okay. I don't know how much, but many. So let's say that how many years will you have to how many generation, you're right, how many generation will you have to have before obtaining 2,000 hectares?
Changeable from pollinated and the self-pollinated crops.
It's a foreign line, so usually let's say that it's easy and it's something that is self-pollinating.
Yeah. So self-pollinated.
3-4 generations.
Yeah, 6 generations.
3, 4, 6 I hear.
Maybe 5 in between both of them.
Okay. You may all be right because it depends on the crop. But you should know that it's not really regulated, but there are rules in the systems. That means that in developed economy, if you're regarding certified seeds, for instance, if you want to produce a certified seed for each crop, you have what's called a scheme of production. And this scheme of production is very important and you have to follow it, unless your seed is not considered as a certified seed, something that you can commercialize. That means that you will have what's called the G1, the first generation, G2, G3, G4, and so on. Do you know that there are names characterizing those generations?
Yes.
Have you heard of them?
Yes.
Such as?
Breeders material.
Wheat.
G1 can be breeders material.
Breeders material. It's this one, breeders material.
Then pre-basic.
Pre-basics are those ones, generally.
Then maybe basic, and then we have the certified first generation.
Basic and certified seeds.
Yeah.
Okay for everyone?
Yeah.
Okay, you all know that. Very good. So you did that, let's say, in 4 years. You've been great. You're very happy to have produced it in 4 years. So you have to anticipate 4 years before accessing to the market. Okay? So you will depend on the weather of the first production, the weather during the second year, the weather during the third year, and so on. Okay? So you have to anticipate and to regulate your production to be sure to have the right amount for your market. Not too much, but enough. Okay, so anticipation is key. The second thing is maybe, let's say that you have your first commercialization in 2016. Next year, in 17, if you have used all your seeds there and you have no seeds left, how will you be able to produce something for 2017? How will you do? Simple question.
Get it from
You have to
farmers.
store.
One after the other, you said?
Maybe get it from farmers. Buy it back.
Okay, I sold it to you, but please give me back my seeds. I need them for the next years.
But if it's an hybrid,
No, I'm kidding, sorry.
generation will be halogens.
But we're still got
You have to store.
inbred lines.
Store
Yeah, you
lines.
keep generating.
Let's say that,
We still gonna
please.
keep adding-
please, let's say that you cannot keep it from farmer and you don't have stocks. You may, but you don't have, okay?
When you ask multiplicators, sometimes multiplicators get some seed storage if you don't buy them during the whole production.
It may be one way, but let's say that you don't have. You sold everything.
Breeders have their own like.
Breeders have lines, okay? That you call breeder material, okay?
You have to start again.
You have to start again. When, with which material will you start?
The breeders.
The breeder's material. Okay, you'll start once again by this one. That means that the only way to respect the scheme of production is to start once again with the G0, with the breeder material. Only the G0 is able to produce a G1. So you will have to start always by this breeder material, by this starting material, always this one. That means that for 2017, either you have stocks, it's okay, either you would have to make that once again with 1 year of difference to be able to give the market what it requires to supply. Okay, and last question, and after I leave you. The door is there, it's okay. When happens the registration in this scheme? When is registration? You say there. There is registration. Do you all agree?
Depends on the growth.
Let's say that it depends when you want to enter the market. Okay?
2-3 years before entering the market. So it depends on the last year of your after your basic seed, and then you start 3 years before.
Okay, so that means that you have registration during this phase. The first production that you can have to access the market at the right moment, to give the market the best genetic, the one that's at the top because it's brand new, you have to be on this scheme. That means that you have to produce the G3 during the first year of registration and your G4 during the second year of registration. Okay? That means that you have to anticipate the G1 and the G2 much before registration. Okay? That means that you will have lost. If you breeders give to the production many lines, even if you know that only one will access to the market, that means that the poor producer will have to produce that, and he will have costs. Okay? So your challenge, breeders, is to be good, to know if your variety will enter the market or not. You will have also marketing people and agronomists to tell to help you. But it's this team of production plus marketing plus agronomists plus breeders who will decide if it's intelligent or not, if it's brilliant, to start producing those seeds at this moment, or if you postpone a bit to produce it when you're sure. Okay? Is it okay with time? I don't know how. Oh, it's quite good. Okay, so we've seen everything, sorry. So this slide summarizes everything you say. Let's go on with hybrids. So, same question. How would you produce a hybrid for 2,000 hectares? We've seen an inbred line. So please tell me, for a hybrid, how do you do?
We first have to start with the 2 inbred lines for a hybrid.
Okay, for everybody, he said that you have to start with the 2 inbred lines. Let's say that one is the male, one is the female, or will be. Okay, so you start with a G0. That's what you said to me. You produce a G1, G2. Let's say that G3 is enough in order to change. So G3 will be, how would you call it? If it's enough to produce the commercial seed? Basic. So this one will be the basic seed. Those ones will be the pre-basic. Okay for everybody? I see your eyes are not very well.
What?
Do you have a question?
No.
No?
I'm okay.
Okay. So you do that for the male and for the female. The same. Okay? So you have for the female a G0, a G1, a G2, a G3. Other people than you? For the others, how can you produce a hybrid after that? By crossing. That means that you take the seeds produced by the G3, so the pre-basic seeds, and with this start material, you will have in a field. How would you put them in the same field? Because how would you produce it in the same field?
No, different.
You will have to isolate to produce it very pure and to produce it very pure. Okay? And then you put it in the same field. How does it look like?
4 core, 6 row female, 2
Okay.
row male.
It depends on the varieties.
4
Yeah,
and 2.
You will have female,
Yeah. 4, 2, 6, 0.
and male. And the rows, it depends of the crop, it depends of several things. Okay? So you will alternate male and female. Okay? What will where will be the commercial crop, the commercial seeds? On the female. Okay. Take that, and that's the commercial seeds. All right. Last question. What's a good male and what's a good female?
You must know the pollinating period and the opening of a period of both of them to adjust the sowing and to adjust height. For example, for some crops you must just cut branches in order to stop one and make the other grow, or just sow 15 days after.
So what you say, if I try to, you have to know very well the growing rapidity, the precocity of each line, in order to manage the sowing, in order to have a good coordination for pollination. 1L or 2L? 2L means pollination. Okay? One question?
A good male is which produces a good quantity and viable pollen in the right time.
Exactly. A good male is a big pollen producer, huge pollen producer.
And that should be viable.
Okay, and a good female, what is it?
Good seed product.
That means, what's a good seed producer?
That makes a lot of seeds.
It's yield. Okay, the female should have a good yield.
And the male also maybe the pollen production, but white timeline for. Sometimes you have pollen for 2 days, sometimes you have for more days. The larger it is,
Timing, yeah. It should be long-lasting, a long-lasting pollination. If you don't have, you will have to deal that with sowing. Okay. Very good. If you look at this corn, for instance, let's say that this one is the F1 hybrid, your commercial seed, and those ones are the parents. Which one is the female? Okay. It has a large amount of kernels. Okay, so we've seen that. Either the male, either the female, anyway, it's the same phases in order to produce basic seeds. Those basic seeds will be sown in the same field, and this will produce commercial seeds, certified seeds, for instance. Okay, and the name. We've seen that, thank you. And it's just one last slide in order to make you understand that the different kind of varieties, the type of varieties that you will have to breed are completely determined by the way you can produce it. So you breeders are only doing a little job in order that we producers can produce everything. Okay, I mean that you are in a scheme that you have to respect. If you have plants with a vegetative reproduction, you breeders will breed clones. Okay, because it's easy to produce. Okay, if you're with a plant that will reproduce sexually, either you have a high heterosis, either a low heterosis. That means that usually your species with self-pollinating or cross-pollinating, very good. So if you have a low heterosis, generally you're producing lines, inbred lines. But if you have heterosis, it will once again depend on the way you manage to control the crossing. If you have a way to control it a large way, then it's okay, you will be able to produce hybrids. But if you're not able to control the hybridation, the crossing easily, then you will have to produce another thing than hybrid, which is either synthetic varieties, either population. Okay?
So for wheat, you would use, what would you use for wheat?
For wheat? For wheat, wheat, for instance, is something that we produce sexually, where you have something with a bit of heterosis, it remains, even if it's very strongly self-pollinating, there's still a bit of heterosis, but usually it's so easy to produce it this way that most of wheat is produced as inbred line. But
So do you do hybridization?
But some do. Some produces hybrids with wheat, but only if they are able to control on a large scale, on a large way, the pollination, the hybridation.
That's hard.
It's very hard. We'll see just after that. Okay, so those are other types that I didn't mention, but you know them.
Yeah.
This one for grass, this one for developing countries. Generally, when you are not very strong in breeding, you start with those ones. And it's also because it's not very easy to be good at producing it. So keep in mind that the way, the kind of thing you're breeding is strongly linked with production system. It's the last part of my lecture, and it deals with the good production systems. We mentioned some of them, but I wanted to summarize only on one slide what can happen in production in order that you can get that. Oh, no, let's go on. I think I will propose you one slide, and you can intervene and comment as much as you want. Okay? On my slide, I wanted to start with the characteristics of a seed. We said that a seed is germination, life, is propagation, yield, is an input. That means purity, something you can sell, something that's pure and that's not contaminated. Okay? So these characteristics determine different ways to see quality. The first way is yielding. A good production is first of all a good yield. You have to be good at producing your seeds. And to do that, what differentiates seed production from a traditional crop that any farmer can do is that you're very good at controlling pollination or hybridation. So that's the know-how that is really required to be good at producing seeds. You cannot be a farmer producing seeds if you're not good at that. And I just mentioned other things that are important for yield. You have to know that for seeds, irrigation is very key also. It's complicated to produce seeds if you're not able to irrigate, because it depends on the weather. Production depends on the weather, and usually the best way to control the weather in order to produce is to control water. A second way to see what's a good production is the harvest quality. Harvest quality means something with a good germination. And in order to have a good germination, you have to have a good maturation. You're right, it's something that is matured. And if you want a good maturation, what is key, and it's really proper to the seed production, is irrigation. Usually, in crop producing, you don't really irrigate, or much less, after the flowering. Thank you. After flowering. For seed production, you have to do that, because you have to have very good germination. So irrigation is key there. And also, after irrigation, the consequence also is to be able to dry very well your seeds. The drying system will be key. You have to manage the good humidity in order to keep a good germination, but to stop the life, to maintain it, but just to slow it down very, very well in order to keep the life, but at a very low level. Okay? No question. A third way to look at quality for production is the varietal purity. When you produce seeds, you have to have a perfect varietal purity. And it's something with such a level that you cannot see that in any field but seed production. It's a very, very, very high level. That means that when you're dealing with seed production, you have the best tracking system. You are very, very focused on risks of mix of seeds, and you are the only one who have purification in your fields. That means that you may have workers who works in your fields in order to purificate the crop to produce exactly the seed you want. And it's something that is very specific to seed production. And last two parts that are important, the physical purity. when you sell seeds, you sell seeds. You don't sell anything else but the crop that is in the seeds. That means that you have to control weeds very well. I mean, as any farmer do, but you have to be good at it. And last but not least, the sanitary quality. If you want to sell your seeds, it has to be safe. You don't have to contaminate the farmers that will buy the seeds with disease, for instance. So you have to be good on the sanitary quality. It's one of the most challenging points for the production today and tomorrow. To be good in sanitary quality. That means that you have to be very careful on the previous crops on the fields. Usually when you're a farmer, you avoid producing the same crops twice, 3 or 4 years on the same place. For seed production, usually you have to keep your fields without the same crops for 3, 4, maybe 6 years before being able to come once again in the field. Because some diseases are stocked in the soil, and you have to have several years without any crop that can grow the disease, where the disease can grow, before coming back with a seed production. So it's something very specific. And the others are usual. You use pesticides in order to control it. Do you have questions on that?
Yeah, I have a question. The pesticide under the physical purity. Can you explain it better?
It's herbicides. I mean the best way, no, not the best way, but the most efficient way to be sure to have a good physical purity is to use herbicides. Unless you have workers or you're very good at controlling weed system. Okay? So I just wanted to say that weather is everything. You can lose any of those components of the quality depending on the weather. So production is closely dependent on the weather condition. You have to control everything, but you're not able to control the weather when it's not good. And the last slide of my lecture before the conclusion is the sterility. You all know that sterility is key for breeding when you are dealing with the crosses, but it's most of all required for production. There are 3 ways to have sterility. What are they? Mechanical? CMS?
Chemical.
And chemical. Okay. So this one is mechanical. It's just an illustration with corn, detasseling. Chemical. That's what we used to use for wheat, for instance. Right now, today, when we are producing wheat, it's this sterility that we use, but it's very complicated to use. We use it better and better, but there are still many risks to have a bad production with this system. And the last way is the genetic sterility, but you have to have something reverse, as you know. That's why we use CMS. And the problem of CMS is that it has to be good, very good. And it's very complicated in a crop to have something that is very good in controlling sterility and to have a good reverse system. When you find one, you keep it. And usually in crops, in several crops, you're still looking for something good with that. I'm thinking in corn, for instance. In corn, it's complicated to have a very good CMS system. We have 3, but those 3 are not that great. It can be less efficient depending on the weather condition. It's not very stable. Okay. What I wanted to enhance is that for a breeder, CMS is just a pain. It's horrible to manage. If you are a breeder dealing with a species where you will have to use CMS, you'll see that your system of breeding will be much more complicated. But you will have to thank production for that. Okay? If you're dealing with CMS, it's because of production, and that underlines how much production is important for your job. Okay? And now it's time for the conclusion. No, yeah, I forgot this one. I told you that a seed is like a diamond. Okay? You have the raw material in the field, but that's where you can have the material. The only way to produce a good seed is to make the best job in the field. And after that, you will only be able to preserve it. Maybe to improve a bit, but to preserve. You cannot save a seed in a factory. The job is done in the field. And in the factory, you will only have to preserve the germination or the sanitary quality. That means controlling temperature, humidity, mixing, risks, the treatments, the shocks. You have to control all that in order to preserve the quality, but everything is done in the field. Okay, so if you would like, it's time to conclude. What do you remind? What would you say for the conclusion of this lecture? What would you remind? Notice. Production. For a breeder, what do you have to know?
Sexual reproduction is the key for breeding.
Okay. Let's. Okay. Was it interesting?
Yes.
No. Okay, thank you.
Registration before 2 to 3 years before entering into the market.
You have to anticipate. Okay.
Quality and quantity of seeds.
That means you have to control what?
All the parameters, like irrigation.
Field job. Very good know-how in the field. Okay. What else? For the lines, for the hybrids.
Pray that the weather favors you. You pray that the weather favors you because it looks like weather determines everything.
Yeah, weather, you're right. Weather is the key. You're right. Sorry. Okay. Something to add? Nobody said anything on the internet?
No.
Okay. So for the conclusions, I would say first that there is no progress in the market if you don't have an efficient supply chain and production system. That means that you breeders can do the best job if you're not followed by people that are good at producing. Your job is for nothing. Okay? That's something quite important for you to know. The second thing is that you will have to supply very good seeds, very good varieties for farmers, but also for producers. If you have something that yields very well, that means that it's interesting for production, because if it yields for farmers, it's yielding also for production, if you look at lines. But for hybrids, you've seen that it's much more complicated. You have to know very well your material in order to be able to coordinate male and female, and to choose which one will be the male, which one will be the female, and to give the good advice to the production. Something that I didn't say enough, but I was very general when I presented things. I didn't focus on a species or another. But you have to know that every production is adapted to the crop, to the species, or even to the variety and the region you're working in. So what I taught to you were generalities that you have to keep in mind. But if you work in production, you have to be very good in your place with your varieties. And it's something that you learn with time. Conditions of weather, you told, and also storage. And something that I didn't say enough also is that when you're breeding for hybrid, in many companies, you will have an important index of selection, which is the profit margin. And this profit margin is just the calculation of the profit margin for production. It seems very out of your day-to-day work of breeder, but at the very end, when you will propose to your team, to the marketers, to the developers, and to the producers a new variety, the combination of this line plus this line producing the greatest hybrid ever, your team will have a look first at this profit margin index. That means how much it yields for production. If you're able, if you know how to produce it well. So it's a very important key for you to know. You will have to focus on that also. Okay? Time for questions, if you have. We have a lot of time, so. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for the attention you paid, and I will be happy to find some of you, many of you, for other lectures in this year, and hope it has been interesting for you. Bye. Thank you very much.